So we will bring this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Prior to getting started, the town of Claresholm just wanted to take a moment of silence to mourn and reflect on the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. So if we all just don't mind taking a moment. Thank you. Great, thank you, everyone. So we're looking for an adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Cutler. All in favor? Passed. Looking for an adoption of the regular meeting minutes from August 15th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Carlson. All in favor? Passed. Moving on to our public hearing, Bylaw 1746, the road closure bylaw. I'd like to open this up to a public hearing at 7:01 p.m. Gabe?
Okay. So last council meeting, council passed first reading of Bylaw 1746, which is a road closure bylaw. It's actually the closure of a walkway over by the golf course on Westland Drive. Following the first reading, the Development Department circulated the public hearing notice in the newspaper and in the neighborhood, as well as contacted the utility providers, and did not receive any comments back from the neighboring circulation. Utility companies haven't expressed any concerns either. So. The public hearing is open for members of the public to come and ask questions and express potential concerns about the road closure.
All right. Considering that no one's here to speak their concerns, any comments from council? No? We can go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:03 p.m. and move on to delegations from STARS. Glenda Farndon?
Yes.
Great. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. And also my colleague, Martin Abel.
Welcome.
So, Martin has just recently joined STARS, so he's here to be more of an observer, and then he's going to be working with the municipalities in the southern region. He's out of Lethbridge, so that would be more ideally co-located with our southern region. So as a senior municipal relations liaison, it's a very long handle for really describing the fact that I've been working with rural as well as urban councils across the entire province of Alberta and into BC as well for 16 years now. So I'm long-term STARS supporter and advocate. So we'll get started. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, you know, the pandemic in many ways and shapes and forms has continues. STARS has remained under very strict protocol in order to protect our operations, and we've taken a very slowed integration into our support staff to come back into the bases. We do continue to see an increase in stress-related types of missions like heart attack, stroke, drug overdose, as well as COVID cases. In the height of COVID, it was 1 in 5 missions were COVID-related. Now we are seeing some decreasing cases as well as decreased hospitalizations and the severity, like less intubations, that type of thing. Our STARS transport physicians continue to assist hospital personnel with critical care guidance, virtual consultation, airway management, and ventilation and resuscitation procedures. Next slide, please. Our Emergency Link Center is located in Calgary. It is a 24/7 safety network. They have access to every available resource, including GIS mapping, as well as preset coordinates to help locate a patient. And our transport physicians provide the medical oversight on all calls that are deemed critical. So they will help to determine the mechanism of injury or illness and help to determine and dispatch the appropriate level of response. So we are seeing about a 1-to-10 ratio for STARS community assistance. So in other words, if you were to see, let's say, 10 missions per year within Claresholm, then it's very likely that we've also assisted your hospital personnel, your first responders, your search and rescue with up to 100 calls in that same year through that virtual consultation. This year, we are seeing an average of 99 emergency requests per day, and last year we received over 36,000 emergency requests alone. Next slide, please. So, our transport physicians now, they are now taking a shift in our Emergency Link Center. It is proving to be extremely effective. They are now coordinating the complex logistical arrangements with the receiving hospitals for such things as neurosurgeons mobilizing a specialty team, the cardiac cath lab, or the CAT scanner, which would be mandatory for stroke patients. Our physicians are in virtual consultation with the receiving hospitals and the receiving physicians. They're able to now make face-to-face decisions using real-time diagnostics. So this is proving to have positive results in critical and trauma patients now having direct access to the delivery room upon arrival at the hospital with improved patient outcomes. It is a game changer. Next slide, please. Let's have a look. This is a solid 5-year overview plus up to August 31st of this year for town of Claresholm as well as within the MD of Willow Creek. So you can see that you do have a very busy hospital here within Claresholm as well. So when we're talking just Claresholm specifically, on an overall average, you see about 12 STARS missions per year. So this would represent, at a discounted rate, approximately $90,000 in service value each year to your residents. Now, when we look at the overall bigger picture within the MD of Willow Creek, now Willow Creek would see an average of about 27 missions per year, where any of those other missions throughout the MD may be Claresholm residents as well, because we all travel. We all go into neighboring municipalities. So it's understood, whether you're going for children's youth activities, things like that, we all travel in different areas. So it's important to understand what's going on throughout your region. And so based on an average of 27 missions per year, this would represent approximately $200,000 per year in service value coming from STARS to serve your residents and area. Next slide, please. So let's take a closer look. This is a brand new pilot project that we've just started, so you're one of the first to even receive some of this information. Let's look on the left-hand side. So this shows within the MD of Willow Creek boundaries, the residents and where they have lived, that on a 5-year total, we've seen 92 residents of MD of Willow Creek, and since 2010, 217 patients that have been flown, that are residents within the MD of Willow Creek. Now, when we look on the right-hand side, this shows the locations of where these residents have been flown. So now you can see where the red dots are, then across 3 provinces into Saskatchewan, mainly in Alberta, across Alberta, and then also in southeastern BC, where MD of Willow Creek residents have been flown by STARS. So this shows you the bigger picture of how partnership allows us to be there for your residents no matter where they may travel across Western Canada from our 6 bases located in 3 provinces. Next slide, please. So this is to give you a better idea of the municipal effort that's basically in Alberta, across the northern regions. We have currently in Alberta approximately 90% of urban and rural municipalities who are a part of this municipal initiative, also into northeastern BC. They recognize STARS as an essential service and also as a vital asset of the emergency protective services that they provide for their residents. So their contributions are based on a per capita or annual fixed rate commitment. So many of them have chosen to go away from the per capita. We've seen a lot of fluctuation. So now they're deciding that, you know, a certain dollar value will fit well into their emergency protective services budget each year, and at the same time allow for a contribution for STARS that provides annual sustainability of STARS operations to help offset those costs of those missions each year throughout your region. So you can see that the MD of Willow Creek, along with their regional neighbors, are all supporters. Everything that you see green is a municipal supporter of STARS annually. The ones that you see in the red boxes that are outlined, now those are municipalities that are long-standing municipal leaders. They have been providing for STARS in their annual budgets each year for decades, and they have now reached logo status. So they are all represented on the STARS helicopter with their logos and have standing motions now anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 per year as a line item in their budget annually. And we have 2 more logo unveilings coming up very shortly. Next slide, please. You know, it was a massive undertaking when we decided that we needed to tackle a fleet campaign. And little did we know that at the time we were also going to be amid a global pandemic. So it was definitely a challenge, to say the least. A $138 million fleet campaign for 9 of these H145s to renew the fleet. Our hand was forced in the fact that with COVID and all the other things that came after the fact, that parts were no longer being manufactured for our previous BK-117s. Then there was delivery problems. There was all kinds of access issues as far as because of COVID. It really did force our hand that we needed to have a new fleet. And so with federal and provincial as well as municipal government, they all played a part. Government themselves, amongst the 3 entities, all provided for 7 of the 9 helicopters. The remaining $47 million was generated from corporate business, dedicated individuals, and some of the smaller municipalities. So the campaign was finalized earlier this year. So we did finally receive the last of the 2 of 9. We had our celebrations for those out of the Grand Prairie and Edmonton bases in May and June of this year. What you may not know is that because of the increased volume in missions that we've seen in the past 2 years, it was decided that we should take advantage of the Sept contract that we had with Airbus helicopters. So we decided to purchase a 10th helicopter as well, which will be arriving in the next month to 2 months. And so we are hoping now that the sale of the previous BK-117s will help to offset the cost of that final helicopter, and we do have a few other corporate donors that are also interested to be a part of that. So we're hoping that that will be finalized very shortly. In your area, the MD of Willow Creek and area, you were one of the first to be served by this new H145, as Calgary Base was the first to receive it. And we expect to be fully H145 operational across 6 bases in 3 provinces, hopefully by the end of this month. Next slide, please. So this new H145 is breakthrough technology. It outperforms the previous BK-117 in speed, range, and fuel efficiency. It has powerful twin engines, just like the previous model, but it has advanced avionics like autopilot, auto hover, which will greatly reduce pilot fatigue, especially in back-to-back missions. Has superior safety features. Like, I like to compare it in order for audiences to have a general understanding. If you think of us driving a car that's 35 or 40 years old compared to what we have today, it's no different than in the helicopter world. There's a significant difference in all the advanced avionics and the safety features. This also is a new 5-bladed system rather than 4, so it's going to give increased lift and load capacity, especially in your kind of area here, and it's going to be very beneficial in complex terrain. It also will require less maintenance, which is going to evolve to be increased availability and also reduced cost. Next slide, please. So here is a look at the highest level of critical care environment available today. Along with our STARS world-class expertise of our crew members, an ICU flight nurse, as well as an advanced life support paramedic, and our transport physician oversight in the Emergency Link Center. This particular intensive care unit environment has virtual enhancements. It's equipped with Bluetooth, integrated Wi-Fi, as well as satellite connectivity, which allows us to now use the latest and cutting-edge diagnostics, which will actually, for example, our handheld ultrasound. So now when we're doing an ultrasound, that helps to detect like internal bleeding, collapsed lungs, heart abnormalities, and those test results can actually be transmitted while we are airborne in the air to the physicians at the receiving hospitals. It's quite amazing, the advancements. As well as, of course, we carry life-saving blood on board. STARS was the very first medical organization in North America to carry life-saving blood. So it's universal blood that can be accepted by anyone. It has saved many, many lives. Next slide, please. So in closing, STARS was born out of necessity. We've been serving Albertans now since 1985. More than 50,000 missions have been flown, and more importantly, at no cost to our patient. Our request to you is asking for your consideration to join many municipal neighbors in partnership and to help us to offset those annual costs each year in your area. We're asking you to join municipal neighbors with a $2 per capita commitment for a 3-year term, which would be in conjunction with your council term. As I said, we have many municipalities now that have chosen to move away from the per capita and go to a fixed rate in their budgets. And again, the more important piece is that it's providing us sustainability as we move ahead and look forward to the next 40 years of service for our children and our grandchildren. A life is saved every day, and it's partnership that has made it possible. And you are STAR's reason for being, so we would greatly appreciate welcoming the town of Claresholm as a municipal partner. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. We'll open this to any questions that council may have. Councillor Schlossberger?
6 bases. Where are those 6 bases?
Okay, Grand Prairie, Edmonton, Calgary, Regina and Saskatoon, and Winnipeg. And then we also serve Eastern BC from Grand Prairie and Calgary bases.
I have one question. Just when we looked at these numbers from the Claresholm Hospital with the critical interfacility transfers, are those
Yes.
included any of the Newton's cradles that possibly happen within our community? I know currently the Fort Macleod Hospital's landing pad doesn't accommodate the Airbus, so I know lots of times that they will meet STARS here in town. Do those numbers reflect this, or do those numbers get put through with the Fort Macleod Hospital as well?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I followed
Sorry.
what you were.
So, on a regular, well, not regular basis, but there's quite often times that STARS will have to meet ground ambulance and meet them within Claresholm. The Fort Macleod hospital, currently their landing pad does not accommodate the Airbus, so they must go out to either the airport, and a lot of times they'll meet them in exchange within the parking lot. So when we're looking at these numbers, does that include those types of transfers, or is this strictly calls made out of the Claresholm Hospital? And
I would say that these are, the majority of scene calls will be taken by ground ambulance because they're the closest co-located, right? So they'll take them to the hospital, and then STARS is called to intervene or to get that patient to a higher level of care, especially in trauma situation. So for the majority of Claresholm Hospital interfacility transfers, they're likely ground ambulance that has taken them to the nearest hospital. Now, for Fort McLeod, I would say that most of the, if it was generated that it was in the Fort McLeod area, they would have either been to the Fort McLeod Hospital, or if they are en route to your hospital, it would still be generated as a Fort McLeod destination of, where it originated.
okay,
The incident.
that was my question. We just had a trauma the other day that came from Pincher Creek, and they were met in Claresholm, so I wasn't sure where those numbers were included, whether it was within the Claresholm Hospital numbers, or if it would have been the Pincher Creek sort of Fort McLeod
Right.
area.
And each one is different. So, a couple of these could very well have been originated from another area if they were transferred directly to Claresholm Hospital, and then we were called to pick them up. Again, that kind of just points to that whole municipal effort of everyone working together, neighbors helping neighbors. It's a very much a united effort in order for us to continue to preserve the service that we have as Albertans.
Yeah, no, of course. No, I was just curious where the numbers were at.
For
Thank you.
sure.
Any other
If you look
questions?
back to 2017 and 18, like, you had some significant numbers there. And then, of course, last year, I think there was still a lot of COVID-related type of missions.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Salzberger, do you have a question?
Transport physicians, so you said when you take a patient to from Claresholm to Calgary, they follow the patient in and meet with doctors in the hospital?
No, this is with virtual consultation. When a call is deemed critical, then it is our transport physicians, though, out of the Emergency Link Center that provide all of the medical guidance. So regardless if they go by ground ambulance or Alberta Health Services fixed wing or STARS or some other mode, if it's critical, then it's our physicians that will provide all the critical guidance, make all the decisions with the receiving hospitals as to what is needed for that care of that patient.
Really? And that's always been that way?
It has been for several years. We've been working very closely for years with Alberta Health Services. And so when it's deemed critical, not on every call, but if it is critical, then because our physicians are, the highest level of critical care. They are, and they're well connected into the system in order to coordinate whether this patient needs to go directly into trauma surgery, whether they need to go into the cardiac cath lab, whatever the case may be. And now we have this virtual component opportunity where physician to physician, they can be FaceTiming each other, they can be assessing, the diagnostics that are being received, and make the right treatment plan.
How are those physicians paid?
On our honorarium, we have transport physicians that are on an honorarium.
Perfect. Any other questions?
The main thing is they're working in consultation with the receiving docs so that we're trying to achieve that seamless aspect, right? So that that patient, everything is ready at the hospital when we arrive with the patient, that they can go directly into where they are needed to go.
Are they paid by AHS or not?
No, not our transport physicians, but they are all transport physicians of Alberta Health Services, right? So it does help that there is that other kind of seamless approach as far as working within the system.
Right.
I think all of us can agree that STARS is pretty important. Unfortunately, through our delegations, we aren't able to make any decisions at this time. But we definitely appreciate you coming out and explaining it a little bit more to us, and very much appreciate it.
Oh, certainly. We just, I just wanted to put the ask forward for consideration in your budget deliberations if you would consider to become one of the municipal supporters across the province.
Yeah.
You know, and I've worked more than a decade with the MD of Willow Creek. I've already met with the town of Nanton, and we will be meeting with McLeod as well. So we'd just like to, there's lots of regional partnerships across the province where there's united effort with every town, village, and the county. So we're just hoping that we can see that in your area as well.
Of course. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your
appreciate
time.
you guys coming.
Thank you.
I did bring this store's calendars, the one that's left over for now, and the brand new one is out now, so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out. We appreciate your time and.
Absolutely.
I work with councils annually every year to keep them well informed, so we look forward to that opportunity to start working with you, bringing you annual update.
Great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our action items. Bylaw 1748, Designated Officers Bylaw. First reading. Abe?
Just pulling it up here. The Admin Services Committee met and reviewed these proposed changes, this new bylaw. They met at the end of August. This is Bylaw 1748, Designated Officers Bylaw. And the real push for the amendment here is that the peace officer used to be a designated officer on the bylaw. We no longer have a peace officer program, and so we wanted to amend the bylaw accordingly to reflect that it's a bylaw enforcement officer, not a peace officer. And when we looked at the bylaw, there were a few things that we thought we could change as well. Removing the subdivision and development review board clerk and assessment review board clerk as designated officers, because bylaws 1664 and 1730 allow for ORSC to appoint or designate the clerks for the SDAB and the assessment review board respectively. Adding the development authority powers to the director of corporate services to ensure coverage that would only ever be used when the development officer or myself are out. And any permit that he would sign off would be reviewed either by the development officer or by ORSC prior to signing off. So, and removing the signing of council and committee minutes from the Director of Corporate Services and giving this power to the Finance Assistant and Communications Administrator. Because that being Corrine, that's her position, is to be here for the minutes and the council meetings anyways. It's a more appropriate fit there. So those are the recommended changes. They are highlighted in the bylaw in your agenda package. Any questions?
Discussion. No questions, comments? We're looking.
Just one comment.
Your mic's not on.
Just one comment. I'd like to see something on our town page describing the difference between bylaw officer and peace officer. There's a lot of misunderstanding of what those two do. I've had people ask me why our bylaw officer isn't handing out tickets. Traffic tickets.
And we can definitely fan something out on Facebook and the website as well. Yeah.
Yep. Any other comments in regards to this? We are looking for a motion for first reading. Sorry, moved by Councillor Schlossberger. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to give bylaw number 1748, the designated officers bylaw, first reading.
Any further questions, comments, or concerns? All in favor? Passed. Moving on to bylaw 1749, bylaw officer bylaw, first reading. Abe?
Seems a little redundant, that title, but bylaw enforcement officer bylaw is what we have for you today, bylaw 1749. I'll just review some of the details from the RFD council, but as previously explained, we don't have a peace officer program anymore, and we transitioned to bylaw enforcement officer. And municipalities that employ bylaw enforcement officers must pass a bylaw to specify the powers and duties of the officer and to establish disciplinary procedures for misuse of powers. The bylaw must also include penalties and an appeal process that should read complaint process for misuse of powers. Section 556 in the MGA. And so we currently don't have that bylaw in place. And so we're meeting a legislative requirement by passing this bylaw, but additionally, it improves transparency with the public regarding bylaw enforcement in the town, and it outlines the officer's duties and powers. Additionally, the bylaw holds the town and the officer accountable to the public for misuse of power, as it provides penalties and a complaint process for misuses of power. So I'll just go through the bylaw here. Three main sections to the bylaw would be the Chief Administrative Officer powers and duties, as to establish one or more bylaw enforcement officer positions as approved by council, to basically to hire, dismiss individuals to the position of bylaw enforcement officer, to provide supervision of the performance and conduct of the bylaw officer, to ensure that bylaws of the town are enforced in an appropriate manner, and to investigate formal complaints. The bylaw enforcement officer's powers and duties in Section 6, to enforce the bylaws within the town, to follow lawful directions of the CAO, to respond to and investigate complaints, conduct routine patrols, and issue and serve notices, tickets, tags, and lay information as required, and to assist in the prosecution of bylaw contraventions, including gathering evidence, assisting witnesses, and attending court to provide evidence as required. And then, again, the formal complaint process is laid out here. Formal complaints have to be in writing. Unless people can't complete them in writing, we can assist them to generate a formal complaint. And a process whereby administration has to follow up with the complainant, do the investigation, inform the bylaw officer of the complaint, and then there are 4 outcomes of a formal complaint. The complaint is unfounded, complaint is substantiated, the complaint is found to have merit in part, or the complaint is found to have merit in whole. And so there's some guidance for the administration as they're doing the investigations there. And then there's an appendix at the back. There is one provision that says that you can choose whether or not it's appropriate to inform the bylaw enforcement officer that there has been a complaint, and there's just a bit of extra information as to why you might choose to not inform that bylaw enforcement officer. The appendix that was sent out in your agenda package, the wording in this appendix was peace officers. It's the one we're presenting for you here is bylaw enforcement officer. So that's changed from your agenda package.
Open this up for discussion then. Comments, questions, concerns? We're looking for a first reading. Moved by Councilor Kettles. Question?
Moved by Councilor Kettles to give bylaw number 1749, the bylaw officer bylaw, first reading.
Further questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor? Passed. Moving on. Councilor Kettles?
Because this is legislative that we have to have in place, would it be maybe best to go outside our norm and just get this in place with 2 additional readings tonight? And so we have it in place just in case an incident ever occurred while we're waiting for this to pass.
Abe, any comments to that?
I don't see the, particular need, to be honest with you. We have processes in place whereby if we do have a complaint, we'll follow this process anyways, right? If that's what you're concerned about. It's just formalized and more clear to the public, I guess, in this way. I don't know if there's an urgency for that. Yeah, I don't think there is.
Fair enough.
All right. Any other concerns?
And I would say that it's a good time to talk about having 3 readings. Sometimes it is required and haste is essential. We try to avoid that when we can, because just according to our procedural bylaw, you're supposed to have readings over a period of a couple of council meetings at least. So.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right, moving on. Number 3, news release. Expanding the benefits of immigration in rural and northern communities, August 26, 2022. Abe?
News release from the Government of Canada regarding the rural northern immigration pilot. It's been extended until August 2024. Some communities have had their boundaries expanded, so not our area, but some areas you can see on the news release here have expanded their areas. A few other kind of, I guess, procedural policy changes with the program as well, helping community partners provide greater support to candidates and employers, reducing the amount of settlement funds participants are required to have. I believe it previously was $10,000 Canadian. I don't know what they've eased that to, but it has been eased up to make facilitate an easier process for people. Strengthening program integrity. I believe that has to do with assessing or shortlisting candidates. Some policy changes around that.
Any comments in regards to this? Councillor Schlossberger?
I was asked why Claresholm didn't expand it.
So we did reach out to Nanton. We spoke with Nanton. We went with their administrators, and the pieces just didn't come together in time. I think there was an interest out there and just aligning the conversations with, I'm not sure, with their council out there. When by the time we had actually approached the officials in Ottawa, it was too late. Just barely, but it was too late. They did say that you might be able to look at expanding in the future, though. I think there's another at some point next year. So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments in regards to this? We'll take it for information at this time. Moving on, correspondence. Honorable Tyler Shandro, Minister of Justice and Solicitor General, Victim Services Redesign. Abe?
Yeah, this letter is actually in response to another piece of correspondence right below this one on the agenda. The town of Tofield drafted a letter of concern regarding a victim services redesign. I'm not actually overly familiar with all the details of that redesign, but there was some regionalization happening, and I believe that the town of Tofield was concerned that it would affect their services in the town itself. This is a letter in response to that, just encouraging, I think, kind of addressing Tofield in a way that they felt like the concerns, if they, there's more information out there, I guess, and that would probably alleviate their concerns a little bit. So sometimes municipalities CC all other municipalities, and that's why we have this.
Do we know, did this affect Claresholm at all with their, I guess, what would it be,
I'm not overly sure.
with their redesign? No? Okay.
Could talk to FCSS about that maybe and see.
Okay. Any questions or further comments with it? Take this for information. Moving on, correspondence, Mayor Deborah Duchek, Town of Tofield Victim Services Redesign. Abe?
Yeah, so this is the other piece of that correspondence chain from Tofield, just regarding the regionalization zoning of that service, victim services.
Questions, comments? All right. Take it for information. Moving on, correspondence, Honorable Tyler Shandro, Minister of Justice and Solicitor General, engagement opportunity, Provincial Police Services. Abe?
So there will be some more engagement opportunities regarding the Provincial Police Service. There's a couple, or the potential provincial service. There's a couple of links, futureofalbertapolicing.ca. As well, there's a news release for more details about the proposed changes. So there's a couple links they're drawing your attention to, and there is also engagement sessions. They will be having some engagement sessions in Lethbridge on the 27th. They will have 6 time slots, 6 one-hour time slots, and they're inviting municipal leaders from the area to, I think, 2 attendees they're asking from municipality to discuss the police service and their concerns. So this is, if council would like to send a couple members of council to address that, would just like a motion to that effect, and we can book that for you.
I wouldn't mind to attend the September 27th in Lethbridge, if everyone is in agreement with that.
I was thinking Brad or me would be best to accompany you, but
Councilor Schlossberger?
I attended an online session. It's a waste of time.
went well, did it?
I just would like to ask the question if they can't.
I asked 10 questions. They didn't respond to my questions at all.
Okay. I still, maybe in person might be more hopeful. Throw some.
Good luck.
Good luck.
If Brad doesn't want to go then.
Yeah, I have a few questions in regards to this, whether or not it would be, if council sees it as beneficial for 1 or 2 of us to go. I would be happy to make the trip up to Lethbridge on the 27th. So,
I'm happy to make that motion for Mayor Petrovic and Councillor Meister to attend the session.
question?
Moved by Councillor Kettle to send Mayor Petrovic and Councillor Meister to attend the engagement opportunity with the Minister of Justice and Solicitor General in Lethbridge on September 27, 2022.
Any further discussion in regards to this? All those in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed. Motion passed. Moving on. Correspondence. Alberta Justice and Solicitor General, Community Justice Center, Stakeholder Engagement. Abe?
So obviously another engagement from the Justice and Solicitor General. This one is about potential community justice centers. And I think it's targeted primarily towards First Nations and Métis community leaders, but they are inviting organizations representing municipalities, non-government organizations, social service agencies, legal groups, and community groups representing cultural and ethnic diversity to these engagement sessions. And again, it's for community justice centers. The design of the community justice centers needs to be driven by communities, providing the ability to directly address the unique challenges they face and being informed by their own priorities and cultural protocols. So there is a session in Lethbridge, October 18th, from 1 to 4 p.m. Might look to send someone from FCSS if council's interested. Otherwise, you can just move on from this one.
Open it up to comments and concerns. I think at this time the focus is possibly on communities that may not represent Claresholm at the moment, so I'm happy to just take it for information. If anyone is in disagreement, now take it for information. All right. Moving on. Correspondence, Alberta Municipalities, Asset Management Training. Abe?
Sure. So there is some asset management training being held by Alberta municipalities in partnership with RMA and Infrastructure Asset Management Alberta. So for municipal administrators and elected officials, there is no charge here. It's a one-day workshop. There are 5 locations across the province, and it is an introductory and advanced asset management cohort workshop series for communities. And Councillor Petrovic, I believe you're interested in attending this, and we just thought it would be good to put it on the agenda and talk to council about that.
Yeah, so originally I was interested in attending this. Originally the date hadn't been, I don't think the date had been posted at this. Unfortunately, I'm away for the 6th of October, so I would not be able to attend. So thank you for putting on here. I apologize, but changed my mind. I'm not sure if anyone else is interested at this time.
Do we know the locations?
Edmonton. Strathcona County, so Sherwood Park. It's a pretty big drive for a one-day event.
Yep.
Yeah. So I apologize, Abe.
Well,
Can take this for information if everyone's in agreement.
Did we skip, sorry, did we skip one?
No,
I thought we were reading this one.
I don't think this one has a location yet.
Sorry, did I miss one?
Oh,
What's
next
this
page, I see it
Recycling
now.
Council of Alberta?
No, that's the recycling one in Strathcona.
Yeah.
Where does the link take us to?
Yeah, asset
Correspondent.
management training is September 16th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then the next one here is Correspondence Recycling Council of Alberta event announcement.
That's a different one.
Is this
Yeah,
not it
it's-
on the page?
that's a different item.
Yeah, is this not it though?
It's below
No,
here.
that's not it.
It says Recycling Council of Alberta on
But
it.
that, the
Yeah,
one,
but
the one
here-
we're talking about is this one.
Yeah.
No.
Did I?
So,
Sorry, Alberta Municipalities Asset Management Training and
Yep,
now on
That's
to.
one page, that's it.
yeah,
Yeah, and then now Correspondence Recycling Council of Alberta,
New item.
which is a new item.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is that what we're agreeing on?
No, what we're agreeing on is you said that the asset management training was in Strathcona.
Oh, sorry, my
And it may not be.
oh, sorry, my apologies.
I don't think we know.
Sorry, I'm sorry about that. You're right. You
I
are
just tried
right.
to follow the link and I got a
Sorry,
error,
yeah.
So I don't know where it is.
Yeah, that's why I looked at this quick. I zoomed over the recycling part of it about the October 6th in Strathcona County. So yes, you are right, Councillor Cutler. I apologize. We don't know where the asset management training is, correct?
I don't even know when it is.
When it is, where it is. Page not found, so
It does work. It works on mine.
mine says page not found.
Mine's a page not found, so. What's your information show, Kurt?
Mine says page not
It needs
found
to
as
go through all
well.
these different things. It's not really saying where it is. It's really odd.
I just went right to
Good catch there,
I
Council.
guess we're not
It might
going.
just be online even. Who knows?
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
It says asset management courses available. So it kind of sounds to me like it's just, we do it online.
Well, I'm unable to see it at this point, but we can just take it for, all right. Anyways, my apologies. Thank you for catching that, Councillor Cutler. We can move on to Recycling Council of Alberta, which takes place in Strathcona County on October 6th. Go ahead, Abe.
Yeah, so this is just another opportunity for some training, specifically from the Recycling Council of Alberta, and it's on the circular economy. Just supporting sharing, reusing, and repair initiatives. And as a one-day session, just pushing this out here for council's consideration. It is free for elected officials as well. There is travel, and there would be some cost, though, in terms of travel and meals and a hotel room as well. But could be some interesting information there.
Is anyone interested at this time? No. We can take it for information. And move on, correspondence, Claresholm Pentecostal Assembly, Burn 24/7 Calgary Worship and Prayer at Centennial Park. Abe?
Follow-up to the Burn 24/7 event that happened at Centennial Park. They're just saying thanks for working with them. I think they had a good event, and they appreciated working with the town. Looking for maybe a debrief to see how things went. From the town's perspective, things went fine. So we can, if you want, we can connect with them, and unless you had any specific information to share with them, we can do that administratively.
Any comments on that? Take it for information then. Moving on, correspondence, the Terry Fox Run, annual Terry Fox Run, September 18th, 2022. Abe?
So the local Terry Fox Run organizer has invited a member of council to come to the run Sunday, September 18th. And they said it would be great to have a representative from council to say a few words, preparing everybody off for the run.
Open that for discussion. I will not be in town September 18th. I'm wondering if Deputy Mayor Kettles would like to step in and say a few words for them, perhaps?
As inappropriate as that might be, from some reasons, I'd be happy to step in on your behalf and give them a little talk and send off.
Yeah, if everyone's agreeable to that. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll connect with them and let them know that.
Yep.
Send my regrets. Councillor Kettles is doing an amazing job. All right, I'm going to take that for information. Moving on, correspondence. Calvin Brown, stench from sewer lagoon and feedlot. Abe?
So we get correspondence from a resident here about the smells that come from the south and the southwest of town. We did try to connect with the resident to see if we could, sometimes we'll try to address things outside of the agenda. Weren't able to connect with the residents, so we're just forwarding on the concern to the agenda.
Right. Open that for discussion.
And we'll connect with him and provide a response. If you want us to provide any specific information, let us know.
It's unpleasant, but it's the way it is around here.
We do have a purple air monitor out there that says our air quality is good, so.
I'm unsure how to address this. But perhaps administration would like to reach out again and
Yeah,
thank you.
we will.
Okay. All right. Take that for information. And correspondence, Claresholm Thunder Alumni Committee, request for donation of arena ice time. Gabe?
Yeah, so the Thunder Alumni Committee is a local committee proposing to do a charity hockey fundraiser in March of 2023. They're looking to get 8 teams, 12 skaters, so about 100 people to do, I guess, a round robin over a 3-day period at the end of March. And looks like there's going to be a raffle or draws, and also some fees up front for players, and they'll be generating revenue or funding, and that funding will go to local groups in the community that present requests to use that money. So invest that money back into the community. They do highlight that they feel that there'll be a lot of people returning to town for this event, and with the hopes of boosting the local economy for the weekend as well. They're looking for approximately 20 hours of ice time. And so that's the ask, 20 hours of ice time, which is approximately $2,000, $2,100. And it looks like the use of the mezzanine as well. So there'll be a bit of additional service free of charge there as well.
Open this then for discussion.
Is it available for those dates? Yeah, okay.
Yep, it is. So I
Councillor
did
Kettles?
inquire about what we've done in the past. I don't think we've had this big of a request before for a few days. At times we have allowed, and some of you councillors might know better than I do, but have allowed for some free ice time for certain events.
Councillor Kettles?
We certainly have done so for provincial tournaments and such in the past, similar to this. I'd like to speak in support of this group. They're a pretty solid group of folks around. They'll do exactly what they say they do, and I think this has nothing but great potential to be an annual or biannual event for our community, and I think it's great for community spirit, and like I say, there could be some economic spin-offs, and I would speak in support of this, of it.
Any other comments? Councillor Carlson?
I'll echo those sentiments. I know the committee came to the restaurant and looking for corporate donations, and what they've spoke of, and some of the charity involvement they'd like to be able to bring back to the community. So anything that we do give as a town will stay within the community, and I think that's a pretty awesome thing. So I'd like to support them in any way possible.
Well, I know we moved our dates for Winterfest. I was wondering maybe if we could make this coincide with Winterfest, or would that just be too much on volunteers? But it would be something else for the community to get involved in. You know, it's a little bit later than we moved our date to, but
What date did you move Winterfest to?
I think it was the middle of March, so a couple weeks before this one. So I'm not sure what next year's date is yet.
But this program would take away most of your community to be attending. It'll be an all-day thing for 2 days, so they'll be all at the rink, and then you'll be taken away from
I
Winterfest.
guess.
I think they would two separate events.
I think they would have great success being two separate events as well. Councillor Schlossberger?
Great idea.
I'm in full support of this. I make a motion that we support the free ice time and the mezzanine. I'll make that motion.
I just have one question with that motion. At this time, I know we need special motions for liquor use within town property. Is this an appropriate time to add that into it, or will that just be at a later date?
I think we'll let them know that they should come with a separate RFD, and we'll work with them on that.
Okay, perfect, thank
Yep.
you. Sorry.
I was,
My only comment was, is this a delegation, and would we, our normal standing would be to put it off a session, or so? I just put that out there as a procedural thing.
I believe we're okay to go ahead and follow through with Councillor Schlossberger's motion.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask what a dry bar was.
Dry bar means there'll be no water, like, access to, like a dry bar in your basement where you don't have the sink, all of that. It's
Oh,
Sink.
no sink. Yeah,
Fair
thank
enough.
you.
Thank you.
I was like, no, there's no access to essentially. Sure, they'll have
It's a
bottles
bar
of
with
water,
no
but nowhere to
alcohol.
wash. Yeah. Thanks, placement point. Yeah.
that's where I was going with that.
No. All right, so question when you're ready.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to donate up to 20 hours of ice time as well as use of the mezzanine to the Claresholm Thunder Alumni Committee from March 24th to 26th, 2023 for a fundraising hockey tournament at the Claresholm Arena.
Any further questions, comments, or concerns? All those in favor? Passed. That would be great for Claresholm. All right, moving on. Request for decision, ATCO franchise fees. Abe?
Yeah, so every year, council has the opportunity to review the franchise fees. This one's for ATCO, but we do that for ATCO and also for Fortis. So electrical and gas, and the franchise fee is the fee that the company pays for having their infrastructure on our land. And what the company does is charges that fee to the residents, and then they forward those fees on to the town. So that is one, it's kind of not commonly known as a tax, but it's a source of revenue that gets, that residents pay. And so currently, the franchise fee sits at 10% in Claresholm. Comparatively to other areas, that is quite low. Particularly common, the average in other communities our size is right around 18.5%. And other communities that we often compare ourselves to, Fort McLeod is at 12.5%, Nanton is at 17%, High River is at 20%. If council was to raise the rate by 1%, from 10 to 11%, it would generate $14,000 extra in revenue for the year. So from a budgetary perspective, this is one tool that council could use to increase revenues. However, as we've highlighted or outlined in here, we have had concerns and letters from residents and business owners, and I know that you all have heard it as well recently about taxes and about utility costs. And so this would essentially be another cost for the resident, for the ratepayer on the utilities. So it's your decision to make, council.
All right, open it for discussion. Councillor Schlossberger.
I'm not in favor of raising it. I don't care where anybody else is. I know where our citizens are. And I'm not in favor of raising it.
Any other comments?
I'm not in favor of raising it either, but I do care what everybody else's opinion is.
No, I meant the rates that other communities were paying. Just to clarify that.
Counselor Schlossberg is like a honey badger.
I'm going to say I agree with you at this time, that even though we are significantly lower than the other communities, at this time going forward, I don't think that we need to increase, especially if it's not truly needed at this moment for our citizens.
That's where I was at. We're sitting pretty close to, was it 26 other ones or something like that? You don't have to, I'm fine with where we're at.
Thank you for information.
We're all in agreement then? You'd like a motion? All right.
If we're, we don't need a motion though.
I'd like to move, like, normally what we've done is a motion to keep it the same.
Oh, okay.
Looking for, moved by Councilor Carlson to,
To do absolutely nothing.
thank you. Keep it this, I was trying to word it a little bit more eloquent.
To leave it at 10%.
Yeah. All right, question?
Moved by Councilor Carlson to keep the franchise fee rate with ATCO the same at 10% for 2023.
Any further questions, comments? All those in favor? Moving on, request for decision, Claresholm Housing Authority. Abe?
Okay, so met with Councillor Meister, the mayor, and a couple of members of the Claresholm Housing Authority a couple months back now. This one's just been kind of sitting on the back burner for a little bit. But there are, the Claresholm Housing Authority has asked for some changes from the town to their ministerial order. The province is changing their legislation on housing management boards, and specifically around the recruiting of members and volunteers who sit on those management boards, that there's going to be a matrix that they want these boards to fulfill to better align their experiences with the duties required in a housing management board. And so, for example, the matrix would require board members with experience in housing industry, accounting, community engagement, real estate, change management, public safety. So we met a little while ago, and the Claresholm Housing Authority requested that we make some changes, that council is the only member on the Claresholm Housing Authority, according to the town of Claresholm, rather, is the only member of that housing management board, according to the ministerial order. And so the Housing Authority is looking for changes to allow them to do the recruiting and appointing of board members, so they can have more control over the recruitment process to make sure people satisfy that matrix. So they were looking to change the ministerial order. They presented an amended ministerial order whereby the town would work with the Housing Authority to recruit and appoint board members. Their policy officials said that doesn't really work because there's going to be, they said either leave the town, leave it the way it is, and work with the town to recruit people according to the matrix, or take the town right off. So what the Housing Authority has now asked is that the town be taken right off from the ministerial order, allowing the Claresholm Housing Authority to oversee the appointment of members. So I did reach out to the province, provincial officials, seniors in housing, because just to see why the town would need to be taken right off, why the town is the only member on there in the first place. They essentially said, they just essentially said, sorry, I had a brain fart here. Basically what the request here is the town can stay on there, but they would have to work more closely with the Housing Authority. And it doesn't necessarily have to be taken off of the ministerial order. So I don't have any particular concerns. I looked into some history and asked why the town was on there in the first place, because the authority does manage the whole service. We have very little to do with it, right? We really do at the town. There wasn't a lot of answers when I talked to the province about the history of why the town is in there. The town is on other housing management boards as members because we get requisitioned by other, like the seniors lodges. And so, if council's okay, they have asked for a letter of support to remove the town from the ministerial order.
Go ahead and open this for discussion. Questions, Councillor Schlossberger?
I have concerns with the Claresholm Town Council being involved with that if we have no control and no input and have no financial. We're just going to get it caught up in a big fight and have nothing to say about it. So why should we be there?
Why should the town be on the ministerial order in the first place?
Involved with the board, period.
Right.
When I met with Maxine on a few of these, initially, I think they were hoping to get rid of the town completely. I made the request to continue to have at least a member sit on for, I like the idea of that open communication within the housing authority and the town, to allow us to know sort of housing needs, where are we sitting at, with our seniors, our low-income housing, and to just continue on with that open communication. That's why that was initially, I think, my request in that meeting.
Yes, and I didn't cover that, but they said they would continue to allow a town councillor on the board if those changes did occur.
Councillor Kettles?
I suspect because we appoint members to boards, I suspect that's kind of why we were there as the appointing authority, if it were. And so I'm personally fine with not being involved. However, if something goes sideways, we're involved, whether we have a member there or not. So I would echo, I think it would be best for cooperation and communication to at least have one member involved in that board. Now, I don't know if it could be in their formal structure, their formal proposal, but even at least informally, if they continue to have a council member for this foreseeable future as part of their board, I think it would be beneficial to the community.
And that is what they would like, to keep the working relationship open and have a counselor. And each term, they would ask for a submittance of the counselors who is best suited for it, and they would have to go through conflict of interest and the skill matrix to see if they fit the board. So.
Yeah. And coming from sitting on the Porcupine board, this matrix and qualifications came up through that discussion. And everybody that sat on boards or tried to recruit members for boards in a smaller community knows how difficult it is to sometimes even get quorum of volunteers to sit on those boards. When we went through the details of this new proposal from the government, it very much appeared as a make-work project and a justification project. That said, anybody that's sitting on a board should have some form of skills and have it best suited and make sure that there's a diversity. In larger centers, I could see where it matters. View I had after finishing with the review of it is it means little to nothing other than ensuring you do have the best qualified people sitting if you've got multiple people. And I think that's why it's always been through this body that we help bring those best choices forward. That said, I have no problem removing the town from those operations if they have no control over appointees at the same time. If the main goal is to remove the town from assisting with those decision-making processes, then there should be a separation.
So you're proposing that separation without a town council representative on there?
Yeah, I've got no issues with not having a town council member on there.
Any other thoughts or considerations? Yeah, we're looking for, essentially, I think we're all in agreement that we were able to step back from their recruiting process and appointing process. It's now just whether or not we would like to continue to have that town of Claresholm representative on there.
I guess my only other question is if there is conflict resolution outside of the board, or if there's issues going forward with us not officially having an official capacity within that board, where does the resolution or
I assume it'd be with the minister at that point, with their new charter.
Yeah, that's where I'm, do we?
Yep, they've got their legislation that they're accountable to. It's in a different government department altogether, seniors in housing. And so their legislation runs through that department rather than municipal affairs.
I don't want future issues to fall into the hands of responsibility of our FCSS and so on and so forth.
I don't believe that can happen with their legislation and their,
Well, if they're looking for supports and so on and so forth, if there does become issues internally.
So at this time, what they're looking for a letter of support for them to proceed with the
Yep.
separation, for instance.
Yep.
And then I guess it's up to them later on, whatever procedure they end up with, whether they invite one of our members to sit on their board. Am I reading that correctly?
They intend to keep that position on their board. They just have to be
So-
responsible for choosing their board.
So if and when that time comes, they'll send some correspondence to council if they're still looking for a board member, and council can talk about that, cross that bridge when it comes.
yeah. I don't see it being much different than how we currently run like the daycare or the play school, right? Where we just have a representative on there to increase that communication and
We have financial interest in those, so.
I guess there's
Facilities, yeah.
facilities, yeah. Yeah,
Though they rent the facilities, so.
well,
Token.
it's, all right, so we are looking for a motion for the letter of support for them to sort of separate themselves. All right, moved by Councillor Carlson. Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to provide a letter of support to the Claresholm Housing Authority and Alberta Seniors in Housing in support of removing the town of Claresholm from the Claresholm Housing Authority's ministerial order for the purpose of allowing the Claresholm Housing Authority autonomy in appointing and recruiting board members.
Any further questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor? Passed. Moving on. 16, request for decision, 2022 Centennial Campground closure. Gabe?
Yeah, in the past couple of years, the campground has stayed open, limited services, of course, throughout the winter. This year, we've got some work that we'd like to do around the roadworks and some of the stalls in the campground. And so we're looking to have the campground close earlier this year. Just for your information, in the past, when we've stayed open, we haven't had a lot of campers throughout the winter, And we don't really feel like it's been worth our time and the town's time to keep that facility open for that period. It does require a little bit of work from some of our staff to maintain it. So we're looking to close the campground on October 11th and then reopen again, of course, in April, not till next year, April 2023. We have also had some personnel issues as well that's complicating things down there a little bit. So would help us kind of close it down and do the necessary maintenance in the off season.
Open this for discussion.
I say shut her down.
Councillor Cutler.
I'll make a motion to close it.
Moved by Councillor Cutler. A question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to approve the seasonal closure of the Centennial Park Campground on October 11th, 2022.
Further questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor? Passed. Moving on, financial report, statement of operations for July 31st, 2022. Gabe?
Yeah, just for council and the public's information, that's our statement of operations to date, as you said, July 31st. Any questions or comments on any of this?
Councillor Kettles?
Do we know the education amounts for Q3 and Q4 that are still included in the revenue?
I don't know that, no. I'll,
So it's hard to know where we're at if we don't know
Yep.
what the, yep.
yeah, okay.
Councillor Schlossberger?
Revenue, penalties and cost of taxes. Year to date is quite a bit higher than budgeted. What's causing that?
I don't know, but I can talk to our finance department and get an answer for you on that one.
What was that one, Ben?
That's on the next page.
Next page, revenue,
Oh,
tax, penalties and costs of taxes is up quite a bit.
People not paying their taxes on time and getting penalized.
I want to know how much that is the cause of that.
Okay, we'll get some information for you.
Any other questions?
I can give you a bit of insight on one that's not footnoted here. On the first page, the general administrative revenue looks like we budgeted for 500,000, and year to date we're only at about 14% of that. That's actually the grant that we received. It's in the wrong place, but the grant that we received for Amundsen Park needs to be located down into Parks and Recreation, and that money hasn't come yet. But it is in the wrong category there. So. Just a motion to approve that, please.
Sorry. Question or looking for?
I'll make the motion, we accept the financial statement.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to accept the consolidated statement of operations for the month ended July 31st, 2022 as presented.
Any further questions or concerns? All those in favor? Passed.
no, I was in favor. I was just late to the table,
Okay.
sorry.
Information brief, Alberta Municipalities Convention 2022. Abe?
The Alberta Municipalities Convention is next week, September 21st to 23rd, and 2 members of council are scheduled to attend along with the CAO. The agenda has been attached here. We were hoping to have a bit more information on the agenda. Right now, all it says is what's happening with, along with education sessions, but we don't know what education sessions they are. That information hasn't been released yet, unfortunately. We wanted to have this on the agenda for council to discuss what sessions they would like the attending members to attend. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information out there right now on that, so I guess by way of information, that is coming up, though. And the Alberta Municipalities Conference is a yearly conference that municipalities, urban municipalities across the province attend. Alberta Municipalities, it's the advocacy group for urban municipalities. And often councils will take matters that and represent their communities to these conferences. There's also information on some special motions at the AGM that's going to happen surrounding the renaming of Alberta municipalities from AUMA to Alberta municipalities, some changes to their bylaws as well. I think pretty much just housekeeping things. But any thoughts or comments from council on the upcoming conference?
Questions? I think if council's agreeable, what I can do is, once we know those information sessions, we can send them out amongst council, and if any of you have any specifics that you'd like us to know, you can give us a heads up, and we can try and attend as need be. Agreeable? We can take that for information at this time. Moving on, information brief. Solid waste to energy. Abe?
Yeah, just a little information brief here. Councillor Schlossberger has requested that we put this on the agenda. I was going to speak to some waste to energy initiatives or information coming out of the Regional Solid Waste Management Commission.
The landfill board was contacted by the MD several times about looking at waste to energy. They were kind of we didn't agree with them as a board. So the MD council asked us to come out for a meeting at the MD. And the MD explained to us that that was part of their strategic plan, and they don't like using prime farmland to bury garbage in. And it's on their strategic plan to address that. So after having that explained to us, having been told that eventually there isn't going to be landfills, right? The environment is going to tell us you have to quit. So I said, we have to investigate it. We have to look at it. It might be 10 years down the line, it might be 20 years down the line, but we have to address it at some point. So the MD set up a tour of a facility in Bicycle that incinerates garbage, all recyclables, almost anything. And the byproducts produced are diesel fuel and graphite. So from what we've seen, Councillor Meister and I think we have to investigate it.
I think so, too.
So this is just to put it on your horizon.
Councillor Kettle's question.
So that facility, is it would be managed similar to our existing facility, and that board then would take on those tasks and do that investigation and work through the economics and the dollar value of that? That would be work for that board,
Yeah.
am I correct?
Yep. Yep. And Derek's taken that on. He's going to get all the information, all the numbers, all the licensing from Environment Alberta, Canada Environment. He's going to follow it up. Yeah. Yeah. And they sell the diesel fuel for $1.13 a liter. The graphite is worth, top grade graphite is worth $3,500 a ton. Currently, that facility sells their diesel fuel to the CP Rail and the graphite to a steel forging company in Lethbridge that mixes the graphite in with the steel to make it stronger. And graphite there's a huge shortage of graphite in the world. And it is also used in EV batteries.
That was my first thing. It's like, oh, pencils, and they're talking about batteries and stuff.
I had some questions because I had been told a while ago that Sylvan Lake had this company there. So I asked the owner of this company what happened in Sylvan Lake. And he said, Town Council in Sylvan Lake said no, because they thought it was, you're producing diesel fuel in town. So they said, no. Thank you.
So this time, take it for information. We have, see what the MD comes up with. It's on the radar.
On the radar.
Thank you for bringing that forward. Take that for information. Moving on, information brief, council committee reports. That would be us. Would you like to speak on any of yours?
I don't think so. Maybe a shout out to Barb and Holly for some of the hard stuff they've had to deal with and some of the heart they show and some of the circumstances in the past few weeks.
That's great. Any questions in regards to the council committee reports? No. All right, take it for information. Information brief, council resolution status. Abe?
Just for your information, Council, the past resolutions and actions that you've tasked for administration and the progress on those resolutions.
Any questions in regards to this? Take it from information. Moving on, looking for an adoption of the information items. Moved by Councillor Meister. Question?
Moved by Councillor Meister to adopt the information items as presented.
All those in favor? Passed. Looking for a motion to go in camera for confidential evaluation, FOIP Section 19, and personnel, FOIP Section 17. Moved by Councillor Kettles. All in favor? In camera at 8:33 p.m. Camera off. Looking for a motion to come out of camera at 9:20 p.m.
I'll make that motion
Moved by Councillor Zimmer.
to come out of in camera.
Thank you. All in favor? Moving on to in-camera item, confidential evaluations, FOIP Section 19. Looking for a motion for the new...
The evaluations would have been.
Oh, sorry, for personnel, FOIP Section 17. Apologies. Make a motion for a new museum member.
I'll make the motion to appoint Mitch Forster to the museum board.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Meister to appoint E.M. Mitch Forster to the Claresholm Museum Board.
Any further questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor? Approved. Looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:21 PM. Moved by Counselor Carlson. All in favor? Passed. Meeting adjourned at 9:21 PM. Thank you. Camera off.